Well, good morning. It's your buddy Ryan here on the Moondance Homestead in the windswept mountains of Central California. And I'm just coming to you from the Moondance Orchard today. As you can see, things are quite overgrown, and that is because there is a method to my madness here. So when I moved in a couple years ago, this entire hill was hard pan soil and dust and sand and rocks. So literally nothing grew on here. And you could tell that, like a lot of properties in my area here in the mountains of Southern California, someone had moved here expecting this to be like Los Angeles and thought, okay, we'll either grow a lawn, or if that's not possible, we will kill all the weeds. And of course, Californians in this area, a lot of them, may have grown up outside of a fragile mountain setting with, sandy topsoil. So they don't really know how to deal with it. So we see a lot of really convoluted management schemes around here. For instance, the people right over next to me will actually mow as soon as it gets, an inch off the ground, and then hire people to come with rakes and take out all of the nice grass they dropped on the ground. What does that do? When we expose soil to direct sun with no vegetation, no mulch, nothing covering it, we end up with a situation where the soil ends up baking, becoming rock hard, and then only things that are really invasive manage to get in. So you end up in this area with a lot of mustard plants. So that's what I had my first year on the property, was just mustard plants pretty much. And then that's when the sort of nasty, thorny, woody desert plants start to come in, because you've created an artificially environment. There's another individual in my area way out in the distance. I can't really catch it with my camera phone here, but they actually take a bulldozer out every year and scrape the topsoil off of their entire property. And so when it rains, we see gullies form and huge amounts of erosion crop up. And so downstream where I live from this guy, I actually have a whole area where the bottom of my field is filled with silt from a seasonal river that flows through. But you can see, rather than scraping, what I'm allowing to happen is biomass building up. So you can see on my side here, it's nice and tall and grassy. Things are coming to seed. And then over on the other side there, you can see, wow, deserty patches. Out in the distance, you can maybe make some out in our foothills. But the other thing that folks do around here, rather than scraping or raking everything off or mowing it too low constantly and letting the wind blow it all away, is people will actually come out and spray their entire 2-acre property with poison. And all of this is done in the name of fire prevention or in the name of getting rid of weeds. And I just want to tell you, weeds do not exist. Weeds are just plants that you don't want in your area. But I tell you what, if something's growing in your hard packed soil or your sandy soil, you can guarantee that they thrive in that condition. And if you let those guys grow, eventually they'll overpopulate that area and run out of whatever condition was making them thrive. So for instance, you have dandelions in your lawn. That's a pretty good indicator that your soil is super compacted, because dandelions make a nice deep taproot and are sort of a pioneer species that comes in that instance. So all of that said, I'm kind of leading up to what I did on this orchard here. I do a no-till regimen throughout my entire property. And when I found this, as I said, it was all sand and dirt. But what they had done is they'd actually laid over chicken wire to try to hold the soil down. So there's rusty chicken wire covering this entire hill. And I knew I had to do something about it because my house is at the top, and I don't want the house to slowly erode down the hill because someone mismanaged the soil years ago. So I have rabbits, I have chickens, I have quail, and over the past few years, I've just block by block, foot by foot, covered all of it once a year as I go, one full coverage in wood chips mixed with animal manure and urine. That's basically their animal bedding that I use. Now that's been straw, wood chips, or shredded cardboard. I try to have a good mix in here because a good mix of ingredients means there's going to be a good mix of microbes. What we're looking for is diversity in my orchard. I have all different fruit tree species. I have all different grass species coming in now on the ground, and I have all different species of fruit bushes in here. So basically, that allowed a lot of grass to grow, so we have a ton of biomass in here. It's not going to be just sand anymore. We're building soil. So now what I've done, as you can see, with some of these grasses, they're nice and brown. Now, we do need to cut this down now to prevent fire. It is that time of year. I try to do things well before the deadline, but the way I manage it different than a lot of folks in my area is I let everything go to seed head, because my first year I put down a nice amount of good grass that's supposed to be for grazing and building soil and arid environments. I had it in my head maybe I'll let the chickens come out here and scratch and eat sometimes, and they do definitely do that in the spring with the grass. And we got to cut this down though. And since the seed heads are already fully mature, there's seeds inside, the grass is basically going to mulch and reseed this. So rather than paying another $100 for a big bag of seed for my orchard and my acreage, this year I'm just cutting everything down, cashing in on that investment. What's going to happen then is that grass will sit on the ground basically like a mulch. Obviously you've all seen a mulched lawn before probably, but you can see it's full of seeds and full of mulch. And the big thing I've learned in California here is that if there's a little bit of shade, if there's a little bit of mulch, stuff starts thriving. See, it's all brown over here, but under the shade of this tree, wow, green and lush. What a difference. So when we're mulching, we're just creating that same scenario at ground level. And the cool thing is, as this grass breaks down into soil and compost effectively over the next year, when the rains come this late winter, all this grass seed is going to sprout, and we should finally have full coverage on the hill. And that is way better than covering it in chicken wire, because we're forming a natural net that is now finally keeping the soil from eroding down this hill, which it was incredibly eroded when I moved in. And you can see, because I've created a thriving community of interwoven plant life, we have all of my fruit trees just thriving. The pear tree, even this year, I believe, it may end up setting fruit. It got really well pollinated, so we will see. At any rate, though, I'm going to mow this all down, and then in a few weeks, when things are really kicking into high gear, I'll give you a little orchard tour, show you every one of my plants. But I currently have 18 different fruit trees and about 20 different fruit bushes in here. Everything from apples, nectarines, peaches, Nanking cherries, wild plums, regular plums, gooseberries, currants, goji berries, raspberries of various colors. So, this area has gone from really the biggest liability on the property to what appears to be becoming a promising producer. We're also able to put these flat raised beds down here in the flat section. So, as water rolls down the hill, all my plants get good drainage, and the nutrients from the manure that I've put at the top of the hill eventually goes down the hill. And you can see, just as sort of an entourage effect downhill from us, because of the nutrients coming from the orchard, the rest of the field is starting to become a little bit more enhanced in terms of its biomass. So that's basically where I'm at, and that's my little talk I wanted to give you on how we can turn fire mitigation into an opportunity for biomass, because effectively we can build soil when we do our fire prevention, or we can really degrade our soil, and you might cut down on your fire risk. But with exposed soil, you're looking at things like sandstorms, which we have around here from people scraping. You can also get the deep erosion, as I spoke to you about, and of course, desertification is going to make it hotter in the summer. So all this stuff I'm doing here should make us more, climate sustainable. I'm hoping to be more resilient to climate change here, and that means there will be less water. And that means with this kind of method, I have to water less because we're retaining it by creating a giant sponge on the ground with all this mulch. Anyway, thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far, and I really appreciate you taking the time to think about this sort of thing. Give me a comment down below. Let me know what you do for fire prevention. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear. Thanks so much for watching.